Wanderer of the Wasteland by Zane Grey, Chapter 17, Part 1. The hour came when Magdalene Veery stirred Adam to his depths. "Wansfeld," she said, with a rare and wonderful tremor in her voice, "I love the silence, the loneliness, the serenity, even the tragedy of this valley of shadows. Ah, it is one place that will never be popular with men, where few women will ever come. Nature has set it apart from wanderers of the wastelands, men like you, unquenchable souls who endure, as you said, to fight, to strive, to seek, to find. And surely for lost souls like me, most men and all women must find death here if they stay. But there is death in life. I've faced my soul here in the black, lonely watches of the desert nights, and I would endure any agony to change that soul, to make it as high and clear and noble as the white cone of the mountain yonder. Mysterious and inscrutable, the desert influence had worked upon Magdalene Veery. On the other hand, forces destructive to her physical being had attacked her. It was as if an invisible withering wind had blown upon a flower in the night. Adam saw this with distress, but she laughed at the truth of it, laughed without mockery. Something triumphant rang like a bell in her laugh. Always in the subtlety of character she had brought with her and the mystery she had absorbed from the desert, she stayed beyond Adam's understanding. It seemed that she liked to listen to his ceaseless importunities, but merciless to herself and aloof from Veery, she refused to leave Death Valley. "Suppose I'd pack the burros and tuck you under my arm and take you anyway?" he queried stubbornly. "I fancy I'd like you to tuck me under your arm," she replied with the low laugh that came readily now. "But if you did, it would be as far as you'd get." "How so?" he demanded curiously. "Why, I'd exercise the prerogative of the eternal feminine and command that time should stand still right here. A sweetness and charm, perhaps, of other days, a memory of power-haunted face and voice then." "Time stand still?" echoed Adam ponderingly. "Magdalene, you are beyond me." "So it seems. I'm a little beyond myself sometimes. You'll never see me the woman who has been courted, loved, spoiled by men." "Well, I grasp that, I guess, but I don't care to see you as such a woman. I might not." "Ah, you might not respect me," she interrupted. "Alas, but Wansfeld, if I had met you when I was 18, I would never have been courted and loved and ruined by men. You don't grasp that either." Adam had long ceased to curse his destiny. The simplicity of him antagonized her complexity. He had been the blessed victory over her bitterness, her mockery, her consciousness of despair. His hand had been the gladness of seeing her grow brown and strong and well until these early June days had begun to weaken her. That fact had augmented his earnestness to get her to leave the valley, but she was adamant. And all his importunities and arguments and threats she parried with some subtle femininity of action or look or speech that left him bewildered. The time came when only early in the mornings or late in the afternoons could they walk to their accustomed seat near the gateway of the valley and climb to the promontories. Nature moved on remorselessly with her seasons, and the sun had begun to assume its fiery authority during most of the daylight hours. One morning before sunrise, they climbed, much against Adam's advice, to a high point where Mrs. Veery loved to face east at that hour. It was a hard climb, too hard for her to attempt in the heat and oppression that had come of late. Nevertheless, she prevailed upon Adam to take her, and she had just about strength enough to get there. They saw the east luminous and rosy, ethereal and beautiful, momentarily brightening with a rayed effulgence that spread from a golden center beyond the dark bold domes of the funeral mountains. They saw the sunrise and changed the luminous dawn to lurid day. One moment, and the beauty, the glory, the promise were as if they had never been. The light over Death Valley at that height was too fierce for the gaze of man. On the way down at a narrow ledge where loose stones made precarious footing, Adam cautioned his companion and offered to help her. Waving him on, she followed him with her lithe, free step. Then she slipped off the more solid trail to a little declivity of loose rocks that began to slide with her toward a slope, where if she went over it, she must meet serious injury. She did not scream. Adam plunged after her, and reaching her with a long arm just as she was about to fall, he swung her up as if she had only the weight of a child. Then, holding her in his arms, he essayed to wade out of the little stream of sliding rocks. It was difficult, only because he feared he might slip and fall with her. Presently he reached the solid ledge and was about to set her upon her feet. "Time stands still here," she exclaimed, her voice full of the old mockery of herself, with an added regret for what might have been, but could never be, with pathos, with the eternal charm of woman who could never separate her personality, her consciousness of her sex from their old relation to man. Adam halted his action as if suddenly chained, and he gazed down upon her, where she rested with her head on the bend of his left elbow. There was a smile on the brown face that had once been so pale. Her large eyes, wide open, exposed to the sky, seemed to reflect its dark blue color and something of its mystery of light. Adam saw wonder there and reverence that must have been for him, but seemed incredible, and the shading of unutterable thoughts. "Put me down," she said. "Why did you say time stands still here?" he asked as he placed her upon her feet. "Do you remember the time when I told you how words and lines and verses of poets I used to love come to mind so vividly out here? Sometimes I speak them, that is all." "I understand. All I ever read has come back to me here on the desert as clear as the print on the page seen so many years ago. I used to hate Sunday school when I was a boy, but now often words of the Bible come before my mind. But are you telling me the whole truth? Why did you say time stands still here when I held you in my arms?" "What a boy you are," she murmured, and her eyes held a gladness for the sight of him. "Confess now, wouldn't that moment have been a beautiful one, for time to stop, for life to stand still, for the world to be naught, for thought and memory to cease?" "Yes, it would," he replied, "but no more beautiful than this moment while you stand here so. When you look like that, you make me hope." "For what?" she queried softly. "For you. Wansfield, you are the only man I've ever known who could have held me in his arms and have been blind and dead to the nature of a woman. Listen, you've done me the honor to say I have splendid thoughts and noble emotions. I hope I have, I know you have, inspired many. I know this valley of death has changed my soul, but Wansfield, I am a woman, and a woman is more than her high lofty thoughts, her wandering inspirations. A woman is a creature of feeling, somehow doomed. When I said time stands still here, I was false to the woman in me that you idealize. 1,000 thoughts, emotions, memories, desires, sorrows, vanities prompted the words of which you have made me ashamed. But to spare myself a little, let me say that it would indeed be beautiful for me to have you take me up into your arms, and then for time to stand still forever." "Do you mean that so you'd feel safe, protected, and at rest?" he asked. "Yes, and infinitely more. Wansfield, it is a woman's fate that the only safe and happy desire place for her this side of the grave is in the arms of a man she loves, a real man with strength and gentleness, for her and her alone. It is a terrible thing in women, the need to be loved. As a baby, I had that need. As a girl and as a woman, it became a passion. Looking back now, through the revelation that has come to me here in this valley of silence, when thought is clairvoyant and all-pervading, I can see how the need of love, the passion to be loved, is the strongest instinct in any woman. It is an instinct. She can no more change it than she can change the shape of her hand. Poor fated woman. Education, freedom, career may blind them to their real nature, but it is a man, the right man, that means life to a woman. Otherwise the best in her dies. That instinct in me, for which I confess shame, has been unsatisfied despite all the men who have loved me. When you have saved me, perhaps, from injury and took me into your arms, the instinct over which I have no control flashed up. While it lasted until you looked at me, I wanted that moment to last forever. I wanted to be held that way in your great strong arms until the last trumpet sounded. I wanted you to see only me, feel only me, hold only me, live for only me, love me beyond all else on earth and in heaven. End of chapter 17, part 1.